In this video, what I'm going to do is give you a really good introduction to the Craft Documents application. This is one of the central pieces of software used when developing the Success Framework. Yes, I'm a big fan of visual products that make it really easy to interpret it. Where I've sort of landed as a obsessed with business person is you need to do a bit of that hard work, which means spending time documenting shit, getting it clear in your mind so you can use it to your advantage. Specificity is key. And so what this video will show you is why I use Craft, what it's all about, how it works, with a focus on how do you practically use it so you can start developing your documents, a little bit about sharing and exporting. And then from there, you'll be able to actually ask some better questions, have a play with the application, and get really good at using Craft to manage your business strategy. This is the place you land when you open the application. I'm going to focus in on how do we use Craft to manage our business's strategy. I'm going to use Key as the example. You can see from the dashboard I can quickly access it. The other thing I can do is use my folder structure to navigate through to where I'm going. Obviously you need to be aware of or have some thoughts into how to do information architecture and management. The flip side is there's a great search feature, so you'll always be able to find what you're looking for. What you're seeing in front of you is the Success Framework template used in Craft to help you craft and document your Success Framework strategy. So basically it's broken down into like a book, the start, table of contents. You can see for Key that I've created a GPT, so that way they have their own business coach in a box. Section 1 is why are we in business. Section 2 is our business strategy. Section 3 is our business plan. Then we do a marketing deep dive, look at business operations and our business journal. Obviously there's a bit of copyright because it's my stuff, made it, blah, blah, blah. We don't need to talk about that. The reason you're seeing a bunch of colors is because I've heat mapped what we're focused on. This doesn't necessarily mean we're actively working on each thing. It just allows me to quickly see where we have progressed. For example, if I go into why are we in business, it gives me an introduction to the section and what we're going to cover there. We can see values. And so for Key, we identified integrity and ethical operations, communication and collaboration, professional growth and personal development, leadership and influence, work-life balance and family, productivity and achievement, and adaptability and flexibility. I'll deep dive in another video on how we created those values, why they're different to normal company aspirations, but essentially you can just see I've documented some text. Each section, purpose, same thing. We've got information, a statement, and potentially some analysis that has been completed. And in each section of this document, it's the same thing. Basically, why does this exist, and then what the information is. The focus of this video is not to go into this business's strategy, but to look at how can I be effective at using Craft. And so there's a few key elements that are on the page here, and there's a few key things to know about Craft to be successful with it. So what I'll do is I'll show you some examples of what I've done in this template. Then we'll start a new document and I'll show you all the key different little buttons. So here you'll notice I've got this company's logo and a heading that allows me to easily identify what I'm looking at when I go into a folder. You can see that for and Ward, so I know that this relates to my company's strategy. I have a visual anchor. I know that this is an ideation image, so someone's thinking through ideas. By having a header image, it makes it easier to identify the documents you're creating. Makes it a visual process. The other thing that you'll notice, you'll see this little twisty. Back in the old IT days, twisties in information structures. This is what first introduces us to this board on the right, which allows us to essentially format our document. So I've used a twisty to house the information so I can get it out of my site, and I've used a block to allow me to see that this is something important, or it could be something that I want to consider and change my focus. Then what we've got are the use of cards. You see on the right here there's a card image. A card is essentially a container of information that allows you to create a chunk of what's going on. Headings, just like Word, emails, PowerPoint, You have all your different heading types. Focus on H1, H2, H3 to structure info, and then you can use things like bold, body, and caption as well. Then there's your standard push in, push out features that we'll have a look at in a sec. If I go into our marketing deep dive, you'll also see that I've used dot points. I have used links. So if I click on that, it takes me to the section. I'll show you how to create a hyperlink. You can see here I've used tables, headings, and I've used this focus feature. That allows me to, as it suggests, focus on different content types. And so you can see that theme is present through all of this stuff. I've used tables, blocks, focus to help allow me to see through the content and focus my attention where I need to. Basically, the uppercase and lowercase a is all about style. If I go across to the page styles, this is where I can select that cover image I talked about. I can change the background, I can mess with it. I can change the colors, show title, show the author. Basically any feature you would imagine in a document editing system. Some page information allows me to see when was it created, who updated it, etc., etc. And then finally, the actions. And yes, you can use this actions feature. It is useful if you like menus and clicking on stuff. And I'll show you some shortcuts in a moment. If I go back up to the top, this is the document. These are all individual documents and folders with documents in them. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the creation of a document from scratch, just from the home page. And this is basically how you begin using Craft to be successful. So new document, give it a title. If I go across here, maybe I want to do an introduction. If I keep entering down, it takes me out of that. I can then use the twisty to say table of contents. It'll default to another twisty. I can change the type. First thing I'll cover, second, third. Enter down a couple of times, etc. Maybe I want to create a to-do list. I can then add in the checkbox 1, 2, 3. So it's exactly the same as using notes on your phone. It's the same as using Word. All of that is true. The focus of this app, for me and others I use it with though, is to get something down and then get out of using it. So it's all about how do I transition from documenting to action. And that's how we use it. So I don't think I need to talk too much about formatting. I will show you though, if I use the backslash, that brings up a menu of everything that I could use. And so if I type backslash light, there's my separator. Backslash card, that gives me my cards. I can choose a different set of cards with different styles. I can then go into the card. When I go into the card, I can give it a title and add something very specific that relates to that card, so it can be very easy to play with. Within the cards, I can also, like we talked, add a cover image. And let's see here, choose an image, unsplash. Boom, there's an image. So now each card has this unique image that allows me to find it. Now if I edit the card style, I can make that image more useful or more visible, or I can make it bigger and wider depending on how I want to see information. And I can see the image there, the early text, so I can get a sense of what this item is about. I can insert files. I can do some code blocks if I'm a code guy. Maybe you've got someone that's really good with Python. They could throw in some Python code so someone can extract data from your database, whatever it is. The other thing that is really good about this, and if I go here, I'll use this company as an example. I can go here, assistant, read the below values and tell me the number one value for key. So this is where it's integrated with ChatGPT, and obviously that didn't work because I got it wrong and I didn't get it in the right spot. So cool, whatever, I stuffed it up. Let's try again. Yeah, cool. All right, so now it's picked it up. I got the question right, and it's talking about professional growth, etc., etc., etc. So I can then insert that into my document, and it's done. So you can use that for searching. You can use that for discovery. There's a whole bunch of ways in which you can use it. And that is Craft in a nutshell. That's how you create a document. That's how you edit it. That's how you start putting pieces of the puzzle in it. And you can really use it to be successful in documenting information. I can also share specific sections. So I can copy a link to that, or I can go into it and click share, and that allows me to create a link. If I create a link and share it to someone, they can then comment on it. And that means that you don't even have to give them a license, but you can give them access to a specific section of your document and get them to comment on it. The other thing you can do is export it to Word, to PDF, etc., etc., and that will allow you to really then start using it in your GPT. You can create your PDF, you export it to Word, you can then edit a document there if you needed to, whatever it is. So by exporting stuff, you then have an interactive PDF that you can use. Any hyperlinks you've got are visible, accessible, work, etc., etc. Now I should be able to go to downloads, pause for excitement, and then, start there. So it's exactly as you imagine it to be. And that is, again, in the world's biggest nutshell, all the key parts of the app. Some other key useful things. You've got a calendar, so you can create a daily note if you're big into journaling. You can search for information, and by searching it, it'll identify the blocks or documents. If I go the key group, there's the key groups document, so it's really good at finding stuff. If I go into a document and I want to search for values, there we go, staff values, key values section. Essentially your ability to search and discover this information is really easy. Notifications matter more when you've got multiple people on the app. The other thing worth looking at is if you're in, actually I'll use Key as an example. So in their business journal, we have a range of meeting rituals, and if I go to the daily meeting ritual, I can use the command I was showing you with the backslash. I can use the @ symbol, I can tag someone, I can tag some other content, or I can tag the date. And so then what happens is you have the ability to search on date, see what was created on different days, so on and so forth. So using things like the date feature can become really useful. The other thing that it'll do is I can show links to a page at the bottom, and so now I know that this document has some relationship to another section within my document. So that becomes really useful as well. So use of dates, all amazing stuff. The last little piece that is probably worth noting is I'll take a risk and I'll open up my images. And yeah, right, that's good. I'll go into the example. I can just dump images in. So if you've been using whiteboards and you have been documenting a bunch of stuff, and one of the big gaps, especially people like me that get distracted really easy, is I never convert that note into either an action, or I don't convert it into a product straight away, and then I can't find the photo in my camera. So by just dumping the photo in, it becomes very easy to find the image in the context in which you were using it. You have a reference point, and then you can get back to executing whatever it is you identified. And that is craft in a nutshell. Practice, practice, practice. Get familiar with its features. The idea is you get in, you document what you need to do, and then between AI, action, and execution, you synthesize what you need to do and you start doing it. I'll finish it there, have a play, and once you get a bit more familiar with it, we can look at other examples of how you can be successful with the application.